She was old, hungry, and barefoot. All she asked for was a bit of leftover food. But what the restaurant manager did next left everyone stunned. Then, a stranger stood up, and from that moment, something happened no one could have predicted. Who was this poor elderly woman? And why did a simple necklace change everything? It happened on a quiet Monday afternoon at a popular restaurant in Abuja known as Agric Haven. The place was peaceful, soft music played in the background, and the aroma of rich, freshly cooked meals filled the air. Waiters moved gracefully between tables, serving well-dressed guests who chatted and ate in comfort. Everything seemed calm, until the moment that changed the atmosphere entirely. That was the day a quiet plea would reopen forgotten wounds. The day a single woman's presence would force everyone to look inward, questioning their own humanity. The restaurant door creaked open. At first, no one noticed. But slowly, heads began to turn. An old woman had entered. Her name was Teresa. Her wrapper was faded, her blouse torn at the shoulder. Her legs were dusty and bare. She wore no shoes. In her hand, she clutched a small black nylon bag, holding it close to her chest like a precious possession. Her back was slightly hunched, her eyes tired, her skin dry and weathered from the sun. Her hands trembled as she took one step, then another, pausing briefly to catch her breath. Near the counter, a waiter leaned to whisper to his colleague, "Who let her in?" "I don't know," the other replied quietly. "Maybe she's here to beg." Teresa moved forward slowly, her gaze on the floor, avoiding everyone's eyes. A woman at a corner table frowned and whispered to her husband, "How could they allow someone like this inside?" But Teresa kept walking. She reached the counter and stood before a tall man in a white shirt and blue trousers. It was Mr. Apollo, the restaurant manager. His arms were crossed, face stiff with disapproval. Teresa lifted her eyes and spoke gently. "Please, sir. I'm sorry for disturbing. I haven't eaten since yesterday. I'm not asking for much. If there's any leftover food, I'll be grateful." The room grew quiet. A customer nearby turned to look. A young man chuckled under his breath. Someone raised a phone to film. Still, Teresa stood her ground. Quiet, calm, with nothing but dignity holding her together. Apollo looked her over from head to toe. He didn't smile. Didn't ask her name. Didn't offer her a chair. Instead, he let out a sharp, mocking laugh, cold and dismissive. "Old woman, did you lose your way? This is a restaurant, not a trash bin." She stood still, her lips slightly parted, stunned. Apollo raised his voice, making sure everyone could hear. "We don't feed people like you here. Go beg outside." A waiter nearby stifled laughter. Another leaned closer, whispering to a colleague. Teresa looked up again and said softly, "I didn't come to make trouble. I was just hoping. Even if it's just bones." Apollo waved her off like swatting a fly. "Go, mama. Leave before you scare off my paying customers." Teresa looked down. Her legs felt weak, her stomach knotted, but she didn't turn away. Slowly, others in the restaurant began to notice. A young couple stopped eating. A mother paused mid-spoon as she fed her baby. Silence filled the space. Then, from a table near the kitchen, a young man let out a laugh and sneered. "So this old woman really came here to beg food from Agric Haven?" Some people laughed. Others didn't. A woman at one table placed a hand on her chest and whispered to her husband, "But she's old and hungry. Look at her legs." But Apollo wasn't done. He repeated coldly, "Mama, This is not a charity. You don't belong here. Please leave. Teresa still said nothing. She didn't argue. Her eyes stayed fixed on the floor, and her fingers clutched the nylon bag even tighter. Her heart was heavy, but her legs wouldn't move. In a quiet corner of the restaurant, a woman sat alone. She wore a neat gold dress that shimmered softly under the light. Her heels were polished, and her nails were painted pale pink. Her name was Jasmine. Calm-faced and sharp-eyed, she had just returned from abroad, where she worked as a medical doctor. It was her first week back in Nigeria. She had come home on a short leave to rest, visit family, and enjoy some peace. She had only stopped by Agric Haven for a quiet lunch. But her food sat untouched. Her eyes were fixed on the scene unfolding near the counter. She had seen it all. From the moment Teresa walked into Apollo's mocking laughter and the judgmental stares that followed. Something tightened in Jasmine's chest. She couldn't explain it, but something about the old woman stirred a deep, uneasy feeling. Her slow movements, her trembling hands, her voice, it all felt oddly familiar. Jasmine leaned forward slightly, her gaze drifting from Teresa's face to her hands, and then she noticed it. The necklace. It was old. Very old. The chain looked worn, and the round pendant was dull, almost black with age. But Jasmine recognized it instantly. Her heart skipped. She had seen that necklace before. She quietly reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and zoomed in on the pendant. Yes, there was no mistake. That necklace belonged to someone she once knew. Rosalind. Her best friend from high school. The two had been inseparable. Shared meals, late-night talks, even tears. Jasmine stared harder, her fingers trembling slightly. How is this woman wearing Rosalind's necklace? She whispered to herself. She set the phone down, her mind racing. Could this woman be connected to Rosalind? Could she be the person Jasmine had been searching for all these years? Her chest filled with emotion and questions, but one thing was certain. She could no longer sit and watch. Her heart was too full to ignore what she was witnessing. She gripped her purse tightly, stood up slowly, and pushed her chair back. The soft click of her heels on the tiled floor made heads turn. Teresa was still standing there, silent, weary, her black nylon bag clutched like a lifeline. Apollo stood with his arms folded, his expression smug, until he saw Jasmine step up beside the old woman. She looked him in the eye. Her voice was calm but firm. Did I just hear you insult this woman? For being hungry? Apollo blinked, caught off guard. He frowned. Madam, please don't bring drama here. This woman came to beg. We're not running a free kitchen. Jasmine's eyes narrowed. And for that, you think it's okay to talk to her like garbage? She slowly turned, looking around the restaurant. Some diners looked away. A few lowered their heads. But others were watching now. Really watching. Her voice rose just enough to carry. Is this what we've become? A society that mocks the elderly? That treats hunger with shame. Apollo opened his mouth to respond, but Jasmine didn't let him. If this woman were your mother, would you want her treated this way? Silence followed. From one table a young woman whispered, "This is too much. That old woman could be any of our mothers." An older man in a white kaftan nodded slowly. It's true. We've lost our sense of respect. Apollo looked around. The air had shifted. The laughter was gone. The smirks had faded. He felt the weight of every eye in the room. For once, he had no reply. Jasmine turned fully to Teresa now. Her voice softened. Her gaze was warm. She spoke gently, her voice clear enough for everyone to hear. This woman is not a beggar. She is someone's mother. Someone's wife. Someone who once gave all she had. The room remained silent. Teresa looked up at Jasmine, her eyes blinking slowly, unsure of what was happening. Apollo rolled his eyes and muttered again, "Madam, please don't bring drama to my workplace. We're running a business here." Jasmine didn't even glance at him. Her voice remained calm, yet firm. "Keep talking, Mr. Manager. I know the owner of this place personally." She paused, then added with quiet steel, "Say one more word, and I promise you'll be searching for a new job by morning." Apollo froze. Too many eyes were on him now. Too many phones pointed in his direction. Jasmine turned back to Teresa, gently reaching out and holding her hand. "Mama," she said softly, "you'll eat with me today. Let's go and sit down." Teresa stared at her again, lips trembling, still silent. Jasmine gave her hand a reassuring squeeze and smiled warmly. "You're not alone anymore." Together, they walked slowly to an empty table by the window. But Jasmine's eyes kept returning to something. Teresa's necklace. There was something about it, something from long ago, that tugged at her memory. The restaurant was still now. The laughter had vanished. No more whispers. Only the faint clinking of cutlery and soft music in the background. A nervous waiter appeared at their table and carefully placed a plate in front of Teresa. Fried rice, chicken, coleslaw, and plantain. A cold bottle of water was set beside it. Teresa stared at the food. Her hands trembled as she held the spoon. "Is this for me?" she asked quietly. Jasmine nodded. "Yes, Mama. Eat slowly. You're safe now." With unsteady fingers, Teresa lifted the spoon and took a bite. Then another. Suddenly, tears slipped down her cheeks. Not loud sobs, just soft, quiet tears. She set the spoon down, looked at Jasmine, and whispered with a faint smile, "You are a good woman, my daughter. May God bless you. I was so hungry." Jasmine leaned forward and held her hand. "You don't need to thank me, Mama. You've already been through enough." As Teresa continued eating, Jasmine's eyes returned to the necklace around her neck. She leaned in gently and asked, "Mama, I don't mean to intrude, but the necklace you're wearing, where did it come from? I once knew someone who had the exact same one." Teresa paused. The spoon remained in her hand, but she didn't eat. Something deep inside her had stirred. Her gaze dropped to the pendant resting on her chest. She touched it carefully, as though afraid it might break. "It was my daughter's," she said quietly. "Her name was Rosalind. She gave it to me before she passed." Jasmine's heart skipped. She leaned closer, her voice soft but full of urgency. "Rosalind. What was her full name?" Teresa looked up. Her lips trembled. "Massimo," she whispered. "Rosalind Massimo. My only child. My only joy. A sickness took her from me." Jasmine froze. Her fingers went to her bag as she searched quickly through a bundle of old papers. She pulled out a worn photograph. The edges bent, the color faded, but the faces still clear. She held it out, her hands shaking slightly. "Mama, please, look at this picture," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Teresa took it slowly, staring at the girl in the photo. The smile, the eyes, the necklace. Her breath caught. Her hands trembled. And then she whispered, This is my Rosalind. Tears filled her eyes. You knew her? You were with her. Jasmine's voice cracked as tears ran down her cheeks. Yes. She was my best friend. Closer than a sister. We met in school and stayed close. She told me about her illness. About everything she was going through. She paused to wipe her tears. One day her phone stopped going through. I kept trying again and again, but there was no answer. I feared the worst. She swallowed hard and continued. Before that, she told me about you. She said you were strong, brave. That you were the one who taught her how to love. She gave me this photo and made me promise. Promise I'd find you one day. Teresa cried softly, holding the photo close to her chest. Jasmine leaned in again. I couldn't come back to Nigeria for a long time. But this time, I was determined. I searched near your old house, but someone told me you'd moved, and no one knew where you'd gone. Teresa nodded slowly, wiping her face with the edge of her wrapper. I left. Because I grew too old. I couldn't work anymore. I couldn't pay rent, so I left. They were both crying now. Jasmine reached out and held her hand tightly. They didn't care about the stairs or the phones or the restaurant. That moment was sacred. A few days later, everything changed. Jasmine didn't stop at just giving food. She went far beyond. She bought Teresa a beautiful new home not far from her own. The walls were painted a warm cream color, the room spotless, the furniture brand new. One quiet morning, Jasmine brought Teresa to the front of the house. Mama, she said softly, this is your new home now. Teresa stood at the door, eyes wide, speechless. Her lips trembled. This is for me? Jasmine smiled. Yes, Mama. You deserve it. And this is only the beginning. She went further, hiring a kind young woman named Peace to help Teresa with cooking and cleaning. Peace was given her own room, so Teresa would never be alone again. Jasmine then took her to a private hospital where doctors ran a full set of tests. Teresa received new glasses, proper medication, and even a personal doctor to check on her regularly. She was also placed on a monthly allowance, enough for food, clothes, and anything else she might need. Teresa no longer begged. She no longer walked the streets barefoot. She no longer cried from hunger or slept on the floor. She had a soft bed, warm food, clean clothes, and, more than anything, companionship. One evening, she sat with Jasmine in her living room. A soft breeze moved through the open window, the light casting a gentle glow on her face. Teresa held Jasmine's hands in hers and whispered, "My daughter, may the Lord bless you. May He defend you when no one else can. May your children never suffer. May goodness follow you forever." Jasmine bowed her head. Amen. Mama. Amen from the depth of my heart. That day, a broken woman was restored. And a promise made long ago by Rosalind was finally fulfilled. From that point on, Jasmine never stopped checking on her. She brought fruits, warm meals, or sometimes just her company. She called her husband and children on video, introducing Teresa to them. They greeted her with wide smiles and called her Grandma Teresa. The old woman would laugh. Her heart, once hollow, now felt full again. Then, one peaceful evening, Jasmine came over alone. They sat quietly in the compound. Jasmine turned to her gently. Mama, there's something I've never told you. But I think it's time. Teresa looked at her with calm curiosity and gave a small nod. Jasmine took a breath. I'm an orphan, Mama. I lost both my parents when I was just a child. She looked down, gathering strength to continue. When I was in secondary school, life was very hard. I worked after classes, washing clothes, cleaning, selling groundnuts, just to survive. Just to pay my fees. Teresa listened silently, her eyes soft. And whenever I was too tired, too empty, it was your daughter, Rosalind, who helped me. Without even asking, she would give me food, money, books, everything I needed. Jasmine's voice cracked again. She never made me feel like I was less than her. She helped me like I was her own blood. A tear ran down her cheek as she smiled faintly. She was more than a friend. She was the only family I had. She paused, her voice quieter now. Mama. Rosalind is the one who helped me go abroad. Teresa's breath caught. Her eyes widened. Jasmine continued, I had gotten a scholarship to study abroad, Jasmine continued, but I didn't take it seriously. There was no way I could afford the flight ticket. When I told Rosalind, she was overjoyed. But I asked her to calm down, telling her there was no way I could go. Then she looked at me and said something I'll never forget. God wouldn't give you a scholarship if He didn't already have a plan to send you there. She told me not to doubt Him. If He had brought me that far, He would surely carry me the rest of the way. Teresa pressed a hand to her chest, her breathing quiet but deep. A week later, Jasmine went on, she came running to me with the brightest smile. She had just received her late father's gratuity, the money she'd been waiting on for so long. And do you know what she did? She used it to pay for my passport, visa, flight ticket, everything I needed to leave. Jasmine's eyes welled up again, her voice trembling. Mama, everything I am today, all that I've achieved, it was possible because of your daughter. Tears streamed down Teresa's face now, quiet but full. She couldn't speak. Her heart was too full. Jasmine reached across and gently held her hand. I know I can never replace your daughter, she said softly. But I need you to know this. As long as I'm alive, you'll never lack anything. You'll never be alone again. I'm here for you, Mama. Teresa squeezed her hand tightly. Her lips moved, but only one word came out, soaked in emotion. Thank you. And they sat like that. Two hearts connected by one selfless soul named Rosalind. A bond that even time couldn't erase. 3 weeks passed since the day Teresa had walked into Agric Haven, tired and hungry, only to be humiliated. That moment still lingered in the memories of those who witnessed it. But one person in the restaurant did more than just feel bad. Her name was Janny. She had been sitting near the entrance with her sister, quietly having lunch, when everything unfolded. She saw how Apollo mocked and dismissed a hungry old woman. She watched as he laughed cruelly. And she saw Jasmine rise, defend Teresa, and shift the entire room's energy. That night, Janny couldn't sleep. The images kept replaying in her mind. So the next morning, she sat down and wrote about it. Every detail, Apollo's loud voice, his insults, and how a stranger turned everything around with compassion, was poured into her post. She titled it, This Happened 3 weeks ago in an Abuja restaurant, and it broke my heart. She didn't mention the restaurant's name. But soon people in the comments did. Then others confirmed it. In just 3 days, the post had been shared over 10,000 times. And people were furious. Who is this manager that mocked a hungry old woman? Why is he still working there? By the 5th day, the owner of the restaurant, Madame Stella, received a message from her daughter abroad. Mommy, Your manager is trending for the wrong reasons. Stella opened the post. As she read, her hands began to tremble. Shame filled her heart. Her restaurant was built on a reputation of care, class, and excellence. But now, it was being called a place where the poor are ridiculed and the elderly disrespected. Without hesitation, she picked up the phone. "Tell Apollo not to come back," she instructed her head supervisor. "Pack his things. He's done here." The next day, Apollo showed up to work, walking with his usual pride. But something was different. His name tag was gone. His locker had been cleared out. A plain white envelope with his name on it sat quietly on the desk. Inside, a short message: "You no longer work here. Management." He stood there stunned, speechless. No one approached him. No one defended him. The world had seen his actions, and now the consequences had come. Life can shift in a single moment, for good or bad. Teresa had entered that restaurant with an empty stomach and no one to turn to. But she left with a full heart, a loving companion, and a second chance at life. Let this story remind us all: never look down on someone because of their situation. You don't know their journey. You don't know what they've lost, or what God is about to restore in their life. Today, that same old woman who was laughed at now lives in comfort, surrounded by care, peace, and love. And the man who mocked her? He lost everything over one moment of cruelty and pride. What did this story teach you? Please share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Another powerful and emotional story is coming soon. So, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification bell, so you'll be the first to see it when it drops. If this story touched your heart, please like and share it with your friends and loved ones. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you always.